Vince McMahon makes his entrance. And he had a little bit more of the Vince walk going there than he did the other night at the Hall of Fame. He gives Austin Theory the big intro. And down he comes, and then here come the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders again. Okay, I guess this works because Pat McAfee played pro football. So
not for Dallas.
Not for Dallas, but it's football cheerleaders. The other night one, they were just out there just dancing for no reason. But anyway, so the match is going to be McAfee against Theory. Vince is at ringside. And again, just like Logan Paul, Pat McAfee took this seriously. He's trained, as we've talked about. He trained with Rip Rogers, and he's worked out with a lot of these guys. And he takes the business seriously. And he was excellent. And Theory, they talked about it, and as we find out at the finish when they did what they did, there was discussion, obviously, of Vince having a match with McAfee. We see now that whatever reservations and whoever voiced them were correct, that they should not do that, but they should do something else to get to that. But this is an example where Theory, even though he gets beat, he's Vince McMahon's flunky / protege. He's in a high-profile match with a mainstream sports guy at WrestleMania. And we know he can work. He's fucking brilliant, Theory. So this was better than it had any right to be, because McAfee's had 3 matches in front of people now, right? And they brought it and they worked it out and they knocked it out of the park, I thought. Back and forth, but McAfee did a great job. When he goes for a superplex, Theory shoves him off the top rope. He backflips to the middle, lands on his feet, runs, leaps up to the top rope in one leap and does the superplex. That was smoother than anybody in the wrestling business would have done something like that.
If you remember, when he had that match with Adam Cole a couple years ago,
yeah,
and it was an empty arena match, and we talked about not only how good he was, but there was something he did that was very similar, where he ran and he jumped on the top rope, and it was so impressive. And I remember at the time we said, imagine if he actually did that in a room with people in it. They would go crazy. It would look amazing.
Well, there you go.
And he finally did it.
And again, that got a 2 count and a big pop. And then Theory took over. He tried to go for his finish, and McAfee got out of it and rolled him up 1, 2, 3 and got a huge pop, because Theory already has heat because he is doing the bidding of the evil Mr. McMahon. And that's where they were going with that thing the whole time. And it worked. And then, okay, we thought, well, this is over with. And then Vince does the thing where he starts to take his jacket off. And then he thinks better of it, and he starts to walk away, and then he turns back around, and then he takes the jacket off and the tie. And then he unbuttons his cuffs, and he unbuttons his collar, and he takes off his shirt. And I'm thinking, fuck, if he goes any further, I know this is pay-per-view, but they should have charged more money. But finally he gets in the ring, and I know that everybody was thrilled to see, because it's Vince and it's the WrestleMania crowd, and heel, babyface, good, bad, whatever. They want to see the stars. They want to see the people they never get to see in person. Vince hadn't been involved in something like this in a long time. So they were looking with the rose-colored glasses, the fans in the building, anybody watching television or whatever. But was it sad to see this? Or was it fun because it's Vince McMahon? Or was it sad because it's Vince McMahon and it's not the same Vince?
The stuff with him in Austin was fun to see. The stuff from the moment he took his shirt off and got in the ring was sad to see, up until Austin came out. And he's in better shape than most 76-year-olds ever, but he's...
Well, yes.
But as soon as he took his shirt off, that was also the first time we've seen Vince's old man arms.
Yeah.
He was an old man. I mean, you could tell he was an old man, and that clothesline. I mean, as soon as he started doing stuff, he's like, oh, no. Like I said, they needed to do something with him in Austin. It was the right thing to do. They probably should have ended the night with it.
Well, yeah, but
I also, beyond the way Vince looked and how sad that was, I also wouldn't have had him go in there and beat McAfee after McAfee just won a match.
Well, that's the thing. The stuff with Austin, except for the unfortunate stunner, the stuff with Austin was all beer drinking and gaga and pantomime and whatever. If he was going to have a match here, why couldn't he have had a manager match for a minute and a half? Because the thing I didn't understand from the start was Vince and McAfee are facing off and trash talking or whatever. And Theory comes from behind and blisters Pat McAfee and knocks him goofy from behind. And that's when Vince says, ring the bell to the referee, and should have taken over and got on him. But instead, he stood there and let McAfee get back up. Well, then what was the point of having the heel hit him from behind to get you an advantage? Now you're face to face again. McAfee runs at Vince. And by God, it was like he had no rotator cuffs. Vince just threw an arm out, and McAfee ran into it and took a bump. That was a clothesline. And then Vince runs McAfee's head into the turnbuckle, and it didn't look like the words that I just described. And then another stationary clothesline where McAfee's running into him, and he's just holding his arm up. I know he's 76, but that is one of the reasons why that maybe this shouldn't have happened this way. Another head to the turnbuckle. Snail's pace, and Vince keeps letting McAfee get up and recover and look at him and get up, and then he'll do something else to him, and McAfee's got to sell. What's he going to do? Now, Vince, time for me to come back? And Theory tripped him and McAfee and crotched his nuts on the ring post, and so Vince could strut around. And then he was giving him, it looked like our little dog Pockets. We give him the soft little kicks in the midsection. And he wasn't trying to like he was kicking a shit out of him. He was doing the insulting kicks, but maybe he's doing the insulting kicks because that's one thing about Austin. He's been wearing 2 knee braces for bad ACLs for 25 years. When you kick with your right foot, your left foot, that's why I don't kick anymore like I used to. Your left foot is landing with a lot of force, and you can fuck your knee up. Well, Vince had 2 torn quads, so he wasn't stomping at all. It's not the same as just lifting weights when you're in the ring with the mat moving and balance being and impact from different places. Go ahead, what?
I was going to say, he tore his quads a long time ago.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He was fucking mid-50s and tore his quads rolling in the ring. Now he's 76 and he's going to start throwing fucking kicks and look like Flair or somebody. No, this was low-impact shit because his tendons, sinews, muscles, connecting tissue, whatever, is all almost 80 years old. At least what hadn't been replaced previously. But anyway, so after the crotch on the post, Theory gives Vince a football, and Vince teases kicking it into the crowd. And I know he's having fun and teasing and milking, but I could tell just by the body language, and he might never admit this, but McAfee was down there going, why am I having to sell so fucking long? Will you please come over here? And finally, Vince teases kicking the football into the crowd and instead just kicks it into McAfee's midsection and covers him 1, 2, 3. And then kicked him out to the floor like a piece of garbage.
We'll talk about what happened after that in a second, and we've given our thoughts about whether Vince should or shouldn't be in there. But if you are going to do this, and word got out, and then people thought it wasn't going to happen because they set up the Austin Theory match, although it always seemed like there was some kind of hidden agenda behind the whole thing, although that was never spelled out. In storyline, it doesn't make any sense why Vince all of a sudden wanted to wrestle a match with McAfee. But if you were going to do this, it absolutely would have meant a lot more to WrestleMania to get people to check it out casually if you announced that 76-year-old Vince McMahon was going to wrestle.
A pro football player.
A pro football player who's pretty popular outside of wrestling, too.
But, I was thinking ahead of time that maybe it was Vince that said we can't advertise this as a match because I can't do enough to give the people their money's worth, make it right or whatever. So let's put Theory in and then we'll do something. But then once he got in there, the match bell to bell, even though a lot didn't happen, it was slow. It lasted minutes. And it, like I said, a manager match. The fucking heel nails McAfee and down he goes. Vince gets on him, on top of him, on the mount, punches him several times, puts the boots to him a little bit, chokes him over the rope, rakes his eyes. McAfee tries to bow up a little bit, and that's when Theory pulls a leg from behind, and Vince gets on him again and maybe grabs something, wraps it around his neck, starts choking him. Or just staying on him like a guy who can't fight would stay on a guy who can fight if the guy who can fight was down. And then finally, either Vince misses something he's trying to do or McAfee just bows up. And boom, 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 McAfee makes a little bit of a comeback on a couple of things that Vince might be able to do. I'm not talking about bumps or whatever. But then let Theory pop up, and there McAfee, because McAfee just had that match with Theory. I mean, it's not like that they've made up and everything. So, and McAfee won, so Theory's still mad. Theory could pop up, and McAfee could give him a couple of bumps and turn around into something that Vince has in his hand, or maybe Theory can hit McAfee with something from behind, and Vince falls on him. How did I beat any major pro wrestler that I ever beat? It was all from the heel doing the damage and me falling on the unconscious body and then crowing about it like I did something. But he beat him and kicked him out on the floor. And then Vince and Austin Theory celebrated what seemed like forever until the glass broke. And then again, I mean, obviously, the people go crazy. Here comes Steve Austin. He's in the ring. He's face-to-face with Vince McMahon. He beats up Austin Theory. He gives Austin Theory a stunner. Austin Theory took 4 bumps on the same stunner.
That was, I was like he was swimming in midair.
Yes, it was great. He went straight up, straight back, bumped up forwards and flipped. And anyway, he wanted to make sure that he made the most of that when that's the first and last stunner that Austin Theory will ever take. It's like being figure forward by Flair or pile driven by Lawler or, spinning toe hold by Funk or whatever. It's an honor. So then Vince weasels out. They do the facials and the interplay with him and Austin. Now let's have a beer. And as soon as they go to have the beer, and folks, if you haven't seen the clip, it's all over Twitter. Mick Foley even shot his live reaction to it and put it on Twitter. Austin kicks Vince in the stomach to set up the stunner. When he kicked Vince in the stomach, Vince either not thinking or potentially off balance, went down to one knee on his right knee instead of just bending over. So since the stunner is kick and grab in kind of the same motion, Austin kicks Vince and goes to grab where he thinks his head is going to be, but Vince has gone down to a knee and Austin reaches over the top of him. There's no head there. Well, now Vince realizes what's happened and he tries to get back up to his feet. Well, now Austin is grabbing for him, but when Vince pushes himself up to his feet, he gets overbalanced and he staggers backwards into the ropes. Austin goes and Austin is trying to get Vince's head in his hands, and Vince is trying to feed back to Austin, but they're not syncing up in the middle. That's why I said earlier in the show, it looked like Muhammad Ali at the peak of his fucking powers, dodging punches of his opponents, except it was Vince accidentally not letting Austin grab him around the fucking head. And finally, Austin grabs him and they're in the corner, and Austin's already starting to laugh. And by that point, he just sits down with the stunner, and Vince, instead of going to his knees, went to his ass, and they all collapsed in a heap. It looked like a monkey fucking a football. And Austin spit all of his beer out because he's like, this is the most preposterous, and gets up laughing his ass off because he just fell on his ass in Texas Stadium in front of 70-something thousand people because Vince couldn't stand up straight.
he hit the stunner, and give him credit. From the moment he first tried to hit it, he had beer in his mouth. He was waiting. So the whole time Vince is doing the rope-a-dope, he's holding the beer in his mouth. And when he finally hits it, like I said, the greatest visual ever. Vince, you can't even see where his legs are. Yeah. He just looks like a torso in pain. And right in front of him is Austin spitting the beer out. It's the funniest fucking picture of all time.
It looked like Austin gave a stunner to the legless man in the AEW Battle Royal. And then, so Austin gets up and he's laughing. He starts calling for the beers, and Vince rolled out somewhere. And then Austin called McAfee in to have a beer with him and then gave a, I guess he figured that can't be the last one I ever do. So he calls McAfee in and drinks beer with him and then gives him a hell of a stunner. And McAfee, he took a completely different style of bump where he got knocked backwards up on tiptoes, froze, and then collapsed. But at least the last stunner that we will see was a good one, but the next to last one is the one that a lot of people, especially the boys in the business, are going to remember. It was worse than Linda's, wasn't it?
It was, and remember what I said to you before, everything was kind of cool, came full circle, including the fact that Vince's first stunner and his last stunner were the two worst stunners of all time.
That's right. He couldn't get the first one either, could he?
He sold it really weird. This one, again, we've seen the stunner now for 25, 30 years, and I've never seen anyone go down more that way.
All right, come on
just
now.
Just looking at the picture of Vince with Austin in front of him on Splash Mountain.
Yeah.
Well, let's be a little serious for a second. Maybe you bought WrestleMania the old-fashioned way on pay-per-view, and you feel a little ripped off by night two, especially the old man who can't take the stunner, and you want to sue.
Maybe, just maybe you might even be more upset because you've actually bought stock in this publicly traded company and you've just had your first look at the guy in charge, the person running this thing, and you say, no, I got to get my money back. I got to sue. One way or another, folks, you need a lawyer.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been taken on some of this WWE stock and now you see that's the chairman, that's the guy in charge, we need our money back. Or whether you're just pissed off that you paid for this thing and you want to get your money back for that, or whether you've been damaged, harmed, or infringed upon in any other way, in or out of the wrestling industry, the man to call, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. For years now, he's been the consigliere of the cult of Cornette. He's helped countless members of our listening audience out there with a variety of problems. If he can't help you, well, I won't say nobody can, but he might be able to find one. If he can't help you, he'll put you in touch with somebody. If he can't do that, you're probably hopeless. But, I don't know, Brian. I'm wondering now, wait a minute. Think about this. Let's flip this around a little bit. Should Vince McMahon retain Stephen P. News services and sue that no good, dirty, low-down Stone Cold Steve Austin for physically assaulting an elderly man? A man ready to be put away in a home somewhere and he was physically assaulted? There's a lot of different ways that these suits could go.
If he's going to get Stephen P. New, I'm going to get Jerry McDivitt. I just want to declare that right now.
Boy, you know what? Next year for WrestleMania,
night two,
hell with Johnny Knoxville I don't even think we need Logan Paul. I think we need Jerry McDevitt versus Stephen P. New in a writ on a pole match.
Not a pole match.
Yes.
No.
They put it on the pole, and the first one to climb the pole. And see, I know
ladder match.
No, well, okay, ladder match. Writ on the top of the brass hemorrhoid pillow. And I'll tell you what, I've been reading writs all morning. If you've read the writs that Stephen P. New has written, you'll know they're really well-written writs. But he can take care of you regardless of whether you need to be written or written off, folks. Again, Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. He can defend you from anything except bad memories of a stinky WrestleMania match.